Cool.
Well, like you guys can see on the right here, a few people have already started to type some things, just small talk and fun things for now, but
Hi,
keep your
everyone.
eye on that in case someone asks a question. But everyone listening at home, just also remember what we keep saying. No one likes a shy assistant or associate, so just turn your camera on. This is really chilled and relaxed. And two of the most loveliest ladies in the world. We've got Lucy Carter, who's going to chair the night, and Roya from America, who's going to talk to you about touring dance all over the world for one of the most amazing dance companies ever, Alvin and Ailey. So I'll turn it over to you guys, and I'll be in the background. Enjoy. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yippee, two women. Hi, everybody. I'm sure people have told you already, it's very weird just kind of talking to ourselves. So thanks for joining us. My name's Lucy Carter. I'm a lighting designer. Oh, look, I've frozen. Did I freeze then?
No, you're good.
Okay. I'm a lighting designer for theatre, opera, ballet, dance, live events, and light installations. And I've been working in the industry for 28 years as a lighting designer, probably for about 26 in the UK and internationally. I should probably also say that I'm the ALD professional designer rep. A large amount of my work has been in dance and ballet. And if I were to admit a specialism, which I don't like to do, I guess dance would be my specialism. My experience with working with associates and assistants isn't massive. Normally I can only get associates in the UK if my availability is a problem during production week. Whoops, I just dropped my phone. And then I have to pay for the assistants out of my fee. And the fees in this country aren't particularly, they don't really stretch to pay an associate as well. I do, however, more regularly now work with an associate or an assistant to draw my plans, because I don't draw electronically. I never found it. I started to learn and I didn't find it a helpful process in my design process. But Sean Gleason and a few others now, but Sean is kind of my regular associate and he takes care of drawing my plans. Can I just check you can all hear me, because my video keeps freezing?
You keep freezing for me a little bit as well, but
you can hear me.
You're good.
Okay, great. Everybody said good. Thank you. So Sean, I work with Sean now, and he draws my plans and does some of my pre-tech research and admin, but he often doesn't get to come to the creation of the show, which is a shame. I met Roya Abab, when I went to work for with Alvin Ailey Dance Company in New York. I was there recreating an existing production, which was Chroma, a ballet by Wayne McGregor, the choreographer. And we had originally made that piece on the Royal Ballet in London. And Alvin Ailey had brought the ballet and we were taking it there and adapting it for their situation. And then I did another ballet with Alvin Ailey and Roya, which was called Kairos, again Wayne McGregor's choreography, and that started life at Zurich Ballet. So that was another recreation for Alvin Ailey, not a new work. Roya is a brilliant associate lighting designer. And I was very impressed when I met her and worked with her. And so, unfortunately, this year we were meant to be working on a production together at Radio City Music Hall, a new production, but that didn't happen. But I thought that you should hear about the unique process and the role of associate for a repertory dance company, because it's really different from the work you have to do in theatre. And I thought it would be a really good addition to your boot camp that Tim's put together, which is absolutely brilliant. So that's about me. Roya, would you just introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Roya. I am a freelance lighting designer and programmer based in New York City. I've been lucky enough to have quite a variety of things that I've done. I've worked with Arc3 Design for 10 years, and we do events of all kinds, concerts, architectural installations. It's really lovely to have some variety, and I'm also I've worked as a lighting director for various dance companies as well, for parts of their seasons. But my main thing is I'm the associate lighting director for Ailey. And I have just entered what would be my 10th season with the company. And yeah,
Cool.
that's me.
Thank you. So we're just going to start. I'm going to ask Roya some questions so we can just find out what she does, how she does it. But I'd love to know originally, like how you started in the business, Roya. What inspired you to come into the business, and what training you did, what career path you took.
I think my story is similar to a lot of people in this industry. When I was a child, I acted and I wanted to be on stage. And then throughout that course, I realized that I didn't want to be on stage. I would rather be off stage. And so I went to university in North Carolina. I went to the North Carolina School of the Arts, and they have a wonderful program for, there's a whole school of design and production. There is a lighting design specific track that you can do within that school. You spend the first 2 years learning both the technical side of things and the design side of things. And then generally when you are in your 3rd year, you decide which path you would rather focus more on. So I chose the design path and graduated. And in between school years over the summer, it's highly recommended that you do internships. And I went and I did an internship with Al Crawford, who is the lighting director of the Ailey company. And then shortly before I graduated, the following year, he called me up and said, I need an associate. Would you want to come on tour with me? And that's kind of how it happened. So that was my path. And I see a quick question here. Yes, there is a difference between a designer and a lighting director. And sorry if I'm jumping ahead in our little plan, Lucy, but a lighting director is a role that exists in a lot of repertory companies or touring companies. And it is a role of a person who manages all of the designs that exist within the company. So at the Ailey company, for example, there are, at any given moment, we have 20 to 30 ballets in our repertory that we're performing, and each one has a different designer. And so it is mine and Al's job to manage those designs and recreate them. We are not designing them from scratch.
Yeah, because that's what I didn't understand, that you're in one season, you could be doing 20 different ballets. So you have to have all of those fitted in within the one repertory rig. But we're going to talk about that, aren't we? You answered my question about how long and how you got there, which is great. Now, I have always thought that the Alvin Ailey Dance Company are an all-black dance company. But you've explained to me that that's not the case. So can you just explain to us all the origins and the history of the company and talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Alvin Ailey founded the company in 1958. At that moment in time, there was not a lot of opportunity for Black dancers to dance professionally. So he started the company to create a space for African Americans to share their stories and their culture. But so yes, it is and always will be rooted in the African American experience, because that was Alvin's experience. He grew up in Texas, but he also very much emphasized the humanity of his dancers. And so it is a multiracial company. I think that I can best describe that by using a quote of his. He said, "I'm trying to show the world that we are all human beings and that color is not important. What is important is the quality of our work. Dance is for everybody." So yes, that is where our roots come from, but we are a multiracial company.
And is that balance, multiracialness, reflected in the backstage roles and in the technical teams? Do you see that kind of diversity? Because we all know that our industry, and especially the technical backstage side, isn't diverse enough. Is that reflected in the company and in the other members of staff?
No.
Oh, we're losing Roya, aren't we? Can everybody hear me still, or oh, we've lost Roya? You can hear me, thanks, Jason, but we can't hear Roya. So I'm hoping Roya will ping back in a minute. Otherwise, I'm stuffed. I can't talk about being an associate. Here she comes. Hi, Roya. We lost you.
Hi, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We lost you at just after my question, really.
Sure. So
you're on.
Yeah, no is the short answer to your question. Luckily, our dancers are fairly diverse, especially compared to a lot of major dance companies that exist right now. But when it comes to the technicians and designers, not so much. In my nearly 10 years at the company, there have been maybe 18 to 20 guest designers that have come through. I think out of that, 2 have been people of color and maybe 4 have been women, and none were women of color. There is a history, we have designs in our rep from some brilliant Black women designers, Roma Flowers, Shirley Prendergast. So we're lucky to have some of that history in our rep as well. But there are BIPOC designers out there and creators that exist. And so I hope moving forward that the design side can start to reflect more of what we have on stage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, so Al is lighting director and you're associate lighting director. So I know Al Crawford as well from working at Ailey. How do you work then? How does your team work?
So the structure of the lighting team is Al Crawford is lighting director. I am associate lighting director. Mark Gonzalez is our head electrician, and Henry Weiland is our assistant electrician and programmer. So Al and I oversee all of the design related information and paperwork and archiving, and Mark and Henry oversee and manage the how we tour and the practical nature of things. And that is our core lighting team that we have. And then on tour, we supplement with local crews.
Okie doke. So tell us about your role and what that involves.
Yes. Many things. So translating, like I said before, we have 20 to 25 ballets in our repertory at any given moment. Some of those are new premieres. So we will have maybe 2 or 3 new ballets per season. And so in that process, it is managing the new designers that are coming in, helping them incorporate their creations into our repertory. But a lot of the other ones are already existing designs or already existing ballets. And so sometimes that comes from another company like Wayne, and sometimes it is an old ballet from the Ailey company that hasn't been done since the 1960s. So a large part of my job is translating. So either translating from old paperwork from the 1960s or and piecing together, the old hand-drawn light plots and what were the channel numbers and what were the gel colors and how does that relate to what we have now, and then actually re-cueing it in our channels and our color and our things in advance because we have very limited time in the theater. And then similarly translating from another company what their light plot was and how that relates to our light plot. That's a large part of it. Also archiving our ballets. So when we add a new ballet into our repertory that I create, and it is so that if someone in the future in our company wants to bring it back, or sometimes we license ballets to other companies. So it's an easy package that we can send out and say, this is how you put the lighting together. So I do that. I draw all of the light plots that we create for any season tour. I'm in charge of updating paperwork. I also, Al and I work very closely together in the theater, and we both share the responsibilities of focusing the rig and doing intermission changeovers and all the things of that sort.
Cool. So, I mean, I would just say quickly that for those of you who don't know how dance companies in the US tour, and some of the dance companies in the UK, kind of the most equivalent one in the UK is Rombear. They tour with a rep and change it out and do, but normally there's 3 to 4 kind of half-hour-ish pieces in one evening's performance. So the teams are having to focus lights for 4, you know, in between each interval, you change the focus of all the booms, for instance, for the next ballet, and each company work differently, but it's quite a big, it's a big paperwork job because you've got to do it live. As soon as that curtain's in, you've got to change all the stuff over. So, Roya, what are the challenges of kind of being an associate for the Repertory Dance Company and doing that kind of stuff? How does it differ from theatre as well?
I think one of the main differences is kind of what you mentioned with touring and the flexibility that needs to happen, because it is a one piece amongst many that all have to fit within the same thing. You know, so it's not one creation that we're making, we're putting it in the theater, it's happening once and it exists in this instance, and then it's perhaps never going to happen again, or if it does, then we'll have an opportunity then to recreate it all over again. That's not the case with the Rep Dance Company. We have to make it all fit into one light plot, and we have to make it tourable. Especially at Ailey, we tour rather extensively in the US and internationally, and so it needs to fit into those constraints. And also, I think a big difference is time in the theater. When we create a new ballet, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that in theater, tech times are perhaps weeks long. And when we create a new ballet at Ailey, the process that the designer goes through is, you know, they work in advance with the choreographer and us to get us all of the information that we need. And then when we are actually in the theater, all the specials that they've decided they want to add are in the air and not focused. And all their color is dropped, ready to go. It is ready for them to start creating, but they come in to the theater at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have to set out the tech table, so that kills 15 minutes. And they have to focus any specials that are not moving light specials, and then sit down and start writing cues with no one on stage. There is often a light walker and a rack of costumes. But they write cues until lunch at noon with a 15-minute coffee break in there. And then they come back from lunch at 1 p.m. and they see it for the first time with dancers, with the press in the room. So they have to write everything without seeing anyone in the space, without seeing it on bodies, without seeing it on anything, save a light walker and a rack of costumes. But and then we do a run for the press, and they have an opportunity to make some edits, and then we will likely do at least one more run, if not two, depending on time and the length of the ballet and all that. And then we walk away, and we are often doing other things, other ballets, other repertory, but that's the limit of the guest designer's time. And then we premiere it that evening. So it's very fast. It all happens in one day. And I think that that's a big difference in the way we do it versus the way it's done in theater.
Absolutely. I mean, and we should probably say, for those who don't know, that repertory dance companies have a fixed rig or a standard rig or a basic rig, whatever you want to call it. And often, and I think Roya is going to take us through it, but often as a lighting designer, you're told you can have 6 specials, or you can, I have to say that I spend a lot of my time pushing against those barriers, because you've really got to concentrate on making each ballet look individual. And if you're all working from the same rep rig, it's tricky. I mean, 20 years ago when I was designing for repertory dance companies, it was all fixed units, no moving lights. So that was even harder to make your work look individual and different from other works. So Roya, I was going to ask you to outline then the Alvin Ailey rep rig and how it works and your paperwork, and you prepared it for us, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I will share my screen with some paperwork for you all. Okay, I'll start with the light plot. If you double click, I'm told to tell you, if you double click, the screen will get bigger. So this is an example. Okay, this is an example of our light plot that we had for last 2019, our City Center season. City Center is the theater in New York City. It's our home theater. We do a 5-week season there every November, December. It is our most extensive season with the most number of ballets that we're doing at one time. So this is last year's light plot. And the Ailey light plot is actually a pretty basic light plot if you strip it down to just the main repertory systems. It's backlight, pipe ends, cyc light, some down pools, and 11 moving lights, essentially, is our overhead repertory. And then everything else that you see is a special for a ballet. And in this instance, I think we had 21 ballets in repertory. So this is incorporating all of those ballets into one light plot. This is the overhead rig. This is the boom plate. We have a lot of, we use 21-foot tall dance truss towers, and they're in 3 sections, and they just bolt together and stand up. It's much easier for touring. We have a lot of rovers. So everything that you see down here is rovers, and these are all ballet-specific items that are placed in a certain wing for that piece, or this is a more scenic element that goes up center. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but this big circle that you see. And then that's our booms, and our front of house package is the one thing that we don't bring in. So we tour, and even in New York, we prep the entire package in advance in the shop, except for front of house. Front of house is the only thing that we use the theater's inventory and equipment. And we try and embrace whatever the repertory hang is, but it varies from theater to theater, and sometimes they need to make adjustments. Yes, so this is kind of a general look at our light plot. You know, normal things. I have a key of our moving light templates so that our electricians can load custom templates in our moving lights. And then I think that you all have been looking at light plots for the last 3 days, so I think most of this looks pretty familiar to you. And yeah, so that is our light plot. And then I think what I'll go through next is our our ballet package. So when we have a ballet, all of the information I like to keep in one place. So I'll use Kairos as an example. We'll talk about this ballet later. I have a little cover sheet that just kind of has the main basic information about it. So it's choreographer, premiere dates, run times, and then this area here is all of the lighting information in a very brief format, and as well as scenic and soft goods and things down here, and then designer information. So this is just a quick look for me to see what it uses, what it needs before I dive too much deeper into the other information. And then we have, this is what we call a side sheet. We have one of these per ballet, and it has all of the information that you need to recreate this ballet outside of our light plot. So this is ballet specific information. These are the low booms. So the bottom 4 units in our booms. And then this 5th light that you see up here represents a in-boom rover system that we have. So this is a system of lights that exists in the boom, and it doesn't have anything that it's specifically dedicated to. So if a designer is looking for something that has a very specific focus and it needs to go in this angle on this thing, we don't usually like to break the focus of our repertory low booms because, again, that's not practical for changeovers and things. So we allow designers to use these lights in any special way that they would like. And then this one has quite a few specials, Miss Lucy. And they are all listed here. So they're listed by channel, fixture type, and then placement on the light plot. So this is second electric, stage left, 10 feet, and then its purpose. And all of this is listed so that we can quickly know what the needs of the ballet are. And I use this page as a reference for when I am putting together a light plot. I'll make a list of all the ballets that we're doing in the repertory, and then I will pull the side sheets, and it will allow me to insert the specials into the light plot as I go through each ballet. Quickly answering this question here, no, we do not replot the show for each new venue. It's per tour. So for our US tour, I will prep a light package, a light plot. I'll draw a light plot that is incorporating all the ballets that we're doing on that tour, even if we're not doing them every night. And then Mark and Henry, our electricians, will prep that package in the shop. And then that is what goes into each theater. So the need to do it differently in every theater is not really there. And then, so the next thing for this ballet is what we call a back sheet. And this has the focus charts of any specials that are specific to this ballet, as well as any templates that are used, which this ballet doesn't have any. But yeah, so these are, there's a wall in this ballet, and that's what this little graphic you see is. And it's just quick notes that allow us to remember how it's focused. And these 2 pages are actually really useful because I've created a little mini book. I wish I had an example to show you, but it's about this big, and it's spiral bound, and it has this side sheet and back sheet on it. And I will make it for our electricians, and it's laminated, and so they can carry it around with them and just flip through depending on what ballet we're doing at any given moment. And Mark can go through and look at the booms and make sure all the colors are correct before the curtain goes up as just like a quick double check. So this is a multi-use piece of paperwork. Next is our moving light tracking that I do. Like you saw on the light plot, there are 11 moving lights. We have 8 Viper performances right now and 3 Viper profiles. This is just, again, a quick graphic of how the light is focused, the preset number that we used. I can talk really quickly about the structure of how we manage our ballets. We use an ETC EOSTI, and each ballet is a different cue list. And then any preset numbers, color palette numbers, anything that's related to that ballet is using that cue list number. So this is ballet cue list 128, and then the preset numbers relate to that number using decimal points. So this is just our moving light tracking. Each preset, what lights are used, any notes, etc. And then I use kind of old school cue tracking. It is a cue per page, and this is part of what we send out to folks when they're redoing it. And it is just a snapshot per cue about what lights are on, what level they're at. If there are any intelligent fixtures, it's color palette number and beam palette number. And then at the very end, I've listed color palette and beam palette information so that that can be successfully recreated.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's about our...
I mean, it's worth just really quickly, because I found this really interesting, saying how your day works when you're on tour. If you
Yes.
To explain the speed that you have to go at.
Yes, sure. For the US tour, I think this is the best example. We come into a theater at 8 a.m. and it is completely empty. It's blank. There is nothing that has been done in advance. Sometimes a theater will hang some of our soft goods, but they often have to shift just legs and borders and things. But so we come into a blank slate at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have 3 trucks, 2 production trucks and 1 electrics truck. We will unload the trucks and begin hanging. Mark oversees the overhead hang, and Henry breaks off, our assistant electrician breaks off, and he builds dimmer world and any rovers and any of the other structures. So those things are happening. We have everything overhead hung by coffee at 10:30. And then we come back from coffee, we build our dance towers, our booms, and we stand them up. They're up, everything is up, hung, plugged in, flashed out, functioning by lunch at noon. So all of that happened in 4 hours with a coffee break. And then we come back from lunch at 1 o'clock and we focus. And Mark is on, we have a 30-foot A-frame wooden trestle ladder on a wheel dolly. And Mark sits on the top of that and he rolls around and he focuses the overhead rig. And at the same time, I'm focusing the front of house lights with the local crew as well as the boom. So Mark and I are doing that simultaneously because we have to be off the stage by 3:30 or 4 o'clock, show ready, completely show ready. So we focused within 3 hours or so, which if I think I've calculated it before with the number of lights in the rig, I think it's like, I don't know, 30 to 40 seconds a light or something like that. And then, we don't do a technical rehearsal of any kind. We give the stage over to the dancers and they have company class and they have rehearsal. And then we come back at half-hour call and or hour, depending on the tour. And we focus any specials that need to be focused, and then we go.
And you don't look through the lighting cues, do you? To my horror, you don't look through the lighting cues.
We don't. We will look through moving light presets because that changes from venue to venue based on the position of the electrics. But nope, we do not step through any of the cues. In theory, if everything is focused in the right place and done properly, then it should look the same every time. Our dancing space doesn't change. It's always the same. So
sure. that's, I mean, it's just super fast. In England, our repertory dance companies tour with 2 days get-in. And I think you said you do in Europe as well.
We
So,
do internationally. We take 2 days.
Yeah. But they don't open till the second evening.
Yeah.
So when I go to a dance company, ballet company, I get given a kind of the standard rig and a list of instructions, and they're all different. And we just briefly mentioned it, but what's your package that you? I mean, we saw the rig, but what do you say about specials?
Right. So I can share again. I have created this. Okay. So this is our new design package that I've created, and this gets sent out to any new designer that is creating a premiere, a new ballet, not a recreating a ballet. So we have a little written explanation of our repertory, general stage space, our dimensions, our floor color options, our repertory soft goods. We have haze. And then there's just a brief written explanation of the focus of some of our main systems. The Ailey light plot is a little bit unique in the way that it's mostly conventional. We have very limited number of moving lights. And because of the history of the designs that we are trying to maintain the integrity of, it is essential that we keep some of that incorporated into our rig, and we still use. But so that's this, continue. And then this is basically what we say about additional specials. We say, what do we say? I think we say about 5. We try and limit people to 5 moving light presets, and we try not to let them add too many conventional specials, just because it adds time. Because our load in is so fast, every light that is there adds a minute to focus or whatever, and it can put us behind very quickly. So we try and manage that, and I think we'll talk a little bit later about how we incorporate that while still allowing the creative process to happen. But so that's a little brief description, and then I have just a generic plan of our rig and our soft goods and how our floor is laid out. We have 4 wings, it's a 40-foot opening, etc. And then same thing, just a generic section of our rig. And then same thing with our light plot. So this is actually the stripped down light plot. This is just the repertory systems with no specials. So you can see the difference between this and the one that I showed you earlier. It's much emptier, more sparse. Same thing with here. So it's our repertory light plot in all the ways. And then these are our repertory focus charts. And Tim tells me that you're all going to discuss this tomorrow, I believe. So just to quickly step through these, it's just each system, a brief drawing of how it's focused, and then some notes, and so that people can understand where things are focused, how things are focused, and how they want to use them. And then this is our magic sheet. Again, just the repertory systems. Any ballet specific things we use the side sheet for. This is our scroll for our scrollers. And then our moving light template load, and we have a few repertory presets that we offer up, but people can start from scratch as well. So that's briefly our new package for an incoming lighting designer.
I mean, I will say that having worked for a lot of the repertory dance companies in the US, I was trying to kind of make a list of how many I'd worked for or designed for, and I got to 10 and stopped, because that doesn't include things where I've sent associates to restage existing ballets and stuff. So, but I would say that Ailey paperwork is kind of unique, and I guess some other companies now do the same, you know. But 20 years ago, I received my first kind of repertory dance plot to try and design a new ballet for, and there'd be just written kind of explanations of the focus, not focus drawings. And for me, kind of 20 years ago, I didn't know what kind of the abbreviation for quarter across, high cut or high cut to border, or, you know, and there's all in abbreviations. And for those people who don't know what quarter across means, it means you, for a side light, you lift the bottom of the beam to the on stage, the nearest quarter to you, and then that's the height, and then you shutter off, and there's all these abbreviations, and I got this and I didn't have a clue what any of that meant. And if I'd have had a drawing like Roya's brilliant drawings, it's really simple. It's really, maybe it's because I'm visual, but also because it's just different.
Same. I'm a very visual person, which is why I create a lot of my paperwork with drawings and pictures.
So that's kind of really great information as a designer to have, especially when I'm abroad. I can't go and visit the company necessarily. I can't go and see them and talk to them. And I would say that's always my biggest challenge, really, kind of pushing hard against this fixed repertory system with 5 specials on offer, and kind of maintaining my creativity and pushing against the lighting director or the head of lighting that I'm having to negotiate with. Because also traditionally in these dance repertory companies in the US, the lighting, they had resident lighting designers, and it's becoming less so now. They have lighting directors who oversee it, but it used to be that the lighting designer or director of the company designed all the ballets as well.
Yes.
And the choreographer might come with an existing ballet, but they would kind of light it, and the lighting design wouldn't necessarily go with it. I would just want to say at this point that kind of European dance companies are different because they tend not to tour as much. So for the Royal Ballet, we work with a really ginormous fixed lighting rig with loads of moving lights. And I can add 3 additional lighting pipes at the Royal Ballet with new fixtures, because those 600 or more lights that they already have are not enough for me. I have to add, other bars or specials. But so it's really different in Europe, and it's the same, same in the other houses that I've worked in Europe. It's often in an opera house with large lighting rigs. So the US is a different challenge entirely. And of course, as a lighting designer, I'm trying not to think about how quickly they're going to focus my very specific lights. And anyway, they're so brilliant in the US at doing, Roya talks about using a lot of focus tape. I imagine while they're all rigging the lights, you're going around the stage taping up so that people can just focus very quickly.
Absolutely. We have a structure of focus lines that we use, and they're 2 feet, 8 feet, 7 feet, 11 feet, 18 feet off of center line, and we use that as a reference as well as our quarter marks for almost everything. And sometimes we have to tape something specific, like your squares in Kairos. Those are very specific, and so Mark is not up there putzing with the light for 3 minutes. I just tape it all out, so it's shoop shoop, and it saves time. And we try to allow the creativity within our limitations, but sometimes there are limitations, just the way that we tour. But we try and support you as much as we can.
You do. I mean, I would say that the 2 times I worked with Ailey, they were existing ballets, and it's always my kind of pet peeve that not with Ailey. This isn't with Ailey, with other companies that their directors buy the ballet that exists, and then I send the light plans, plots, and their lighting team say, oh, well, we couldn't possibly do that. You have to work within our lighting rep rig. And I say, But you've bought the ballet, and the ballet is the lighting design as well as the costume design and the set and the dance. It's the lights as well. And so you're going to have to meet us halfway. And with Ailey, both times we were doing an existing ballet, translating it to your rep rig, and both times Al Crawford kind of came over to the UK or to Europe to meet me, and we talked about it. And I have to say, I didn't only get 5 specials every time. Both times I got a lot more than 5 specials, and that was because Al and you recognized that it was an existing ballet, and Wayne's work is quite visual. You know, the lighting is really important part to Wayne when he makes work. So I think we should jump into talking about Kairos
Sure.
to give more example.
Okay.
So Kairos
Yes.
was a ballet that Wayne McGregor choreographed for Zurich Ballet. It has a set design by Idris Khan, who's a visual artist, an artist. It has costumes by Moritz Younger and music composition by Max Richter. And basically the inspiration for the work was Max's reimagined version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And he reinvented, I think it's called Vivaldi or Four Seasons Reimagined. So we knew that we were, and it's very sectional, and there's spring, summer, autumn and winter in the original Four Seasons, and Max stuck to that. So could we just share the photos maybe of the, now these are screen grabs of a video, so they're not brilliant photos, but what we ended up with was a large Richard Serra style curved wall, which had a metallic texture, a front printed gauze and a back printed cyclorama, a black floor and black wings. And we took our inspiration from the Four Seasons, and Wayne's kind of brief to us was that he wanted to move from the familiar to the unknown. Just like Max does with the music, he starts with the familiar Four Seasons music and takes it into an unknown new territory. So should we just go back to the start of those photos, Roya?
Sure.
And just talk it through. So the piece starts with spring, and have we got the front white gauze or not? No.
Yes.
It's further down.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first bit is we just hear music and the front white gauze is illuminated and then taken away. Don't worry, Roya, we can go to it. And then we see dancers revealed behind the gauze, which is the image that I'm looking at, unless I'm not refreshed. But you can see dancers behind the gauze, and those squares of light were the first kind of thing. There's the front white gauze, and then we start to see flickering and dancers' bodies through the gauze itself. And these flickered, they strobe basically these squares in a different formation, and the dancers are in a kind of voluminous gauze fabric, and the idea is like they're butterflies coming out of their cocoon. You don't quite see it. It's flickering into life with the spring. And then what's our next picture? And then the gauze flies out and we see some dancers and the wall, this large curved wall. You can't see the whole wall in that image, but you can just see the end. There's the curved wall. There are dancers interact with the wall, they slam the wall, and the surfaces that I was lighting are basically dancers' bodies, the wall and the floor. You know, for spring, I was working with ideas such as birthing and sun rising and buds bursting. In summer, it was about the relentless onslaught of the sun and how it's aggressive and forensic. It's so bright, it's forensic. Then we had dropping, dying, and fracture for autumn, and icy snow blindness and light shutting down for winter. So there you see the wall, and this is the challenge. That wall flies live during the piece, and it's super heavy, and it's literally on a diagonal curve. And so adapting repertory dance rig in Zurich that is always focused to an oblong stage with a flat cyclorama and using the curve was pretty challenging. So there you can see that the wall is flying, and there's a large 5K flood that just flies in just underneath the border at this moment. As the wall lifts, it passes a large shadow down the stage and eventually covers the 5K, and the dancers remain kind of lit by side light. It hovers in the air a bit and gets lit in blue. The wall pauses, and then it continues on its journey, and the light, a brighter winter light, comes out underneath. What's the next photo? The gauze comes back in, and then we have the white cyclorama at the back becomes illuminated because now the wall's gone. We can see the backing, and both the gauze and the cyc have printed music staves on it, and we have a whole section where we snap between the white cyclorama at the white gauze at the front, which we use as a form of blackout to change the scene on stage. Then we snap to dancers, a group of dancers on stage, and then we snap to the next image, which is a solo boy and the front of one of the front staves on the front gauze. Now, originally that was a follow spot on that front boy, and the choreography moved about the space. But Roya will tell you that we weren't allowed follow. It was an on-stage bridge follow spot, so on stage of the gauze, coming from top and very steep because it's a front gauze, so you couldn't get the front of house follow spots in, and we couldn't do that at Ailey. Ailey can't do on-stage bridge follow spots for their touring, so that had to be adapted. And then I'm going fast because I want to get it all in for you guys. There's a moment that we wanted to feel like they were the page, they were dancing on the page of music, so there's this square of light to kind of isolate and restrict them as if they're the page dancing on the page of music. And is that the last one, Ryan? Yeah,
it is.
So that was a super fast run through for you, just so you can see what it was originally. And then Roya and I are going to talk about how we did it at Ailey. I've kind of jumped over a few things that, so we did it in Zurich originally, then Munich Ballet bought the ballet, and I had to go and recreate it there. And often what I find is I don't have time when I'm making these ballets to notate it properly, and I rely on the companies to then provide me with the paperwork, and often I have to chase it, and often it's not very good, or it makes sense to them because they're used to working like that and it doesn't make any sense to me, or it's in a foreign language. So I got Sean Gleason to kind of try and interpret all the paperwork from Zurich. We both restaged it in Munich, and then Al Crawford from Alvin Ailey came to Munich and saw Kairos in Munich, and that's where our discussions began, really, about how we could do it for Ailey. Now, so Roya, what were the issues that we faced putting it onto the Ailey stage?
Yes, I think the main place that we started was the wall. That wall that you saw in those photos was, like Lucy said, it came diagonally across the stage. That is extremely challenging for us to do because it flies out, and there's so much other stuff in the air in our rig that there wasn't space for it to take up that much dancing space and fly out as well. So we discussed the option of, do we make it the same shape and size and have it stay there and not fly? Or the other option is we adjust the shape of the wall and allow it to fly. And we landed on the second of the two, and we flattened the curve a bit, and then so that it could fly out successfully within our structure.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth saying that we have done a version where the wall doesn't fly. We did it with Zurich Ballet for the Edinburgh Festival, and the venue. We didn't have a choice of flattening out because I think the flying system just couldn't handle the weight. So we had to do a version where it didn't fly, and what we did was we flew the flood instead, and it dropped all the way down behind the wall to create the shadow, and then lifted all the way back out again. So it was just a different kinetic relationship, really. One of the issues that I remember Al saying to me when he met me in Zurich is we just won't be able to find a 5K asymmetric flood in the US.
Not a square. So that was our second main challenge, is that big light. And you were very specific about wanting it to be a geometric shape instead of a circle. And so we went through a lot of different shops to try and find something. And we ended up actually designing a custom accessory that went on the face of a 5K Fresnel. And it's basically like a wide snoot, a square snoot with a diffuser on the front of it. So it masked the shape of the circle, and it projected the light and kind of just created a little light box in front of a Fresnel. And that was how we achieved the look of the big square light. But we also had to be careful of how much. Our rig is super tight. There's already 3 electrics in that wing, plus the wall, plus another electric with the flying light. So it was a little dance we had to do, but I think we found a solution.
Yeah. And is it fair to say that the reason we ended up with a flat wall as well, we kept trying to slightly put it off center and stuff, is because your standard rig is all focused on the flat as well, which was the issue that I faced in Zurich.
It is, yes. I think it was a space issue, but as well, the rep systems that we would have been able to use would have been really limited because things would be slamming into the wall. That was already something that we were challenged with in trying to recreate it, because we didn't have the time to cut all the pipe ends off the wall and all of the high boom systems off the wall. We did cut off the low booms, all the low booms off the wall, and we were able to achieve that. So we could have a few pictures that were really clean, and the wall was lit separately than the dancers. But yes, being able to use the repertory systems when you have a big scenic piece in the middle of the stage like that is challenging as well.
And you said to me the other day that it was challenging on tour because you'd want to be focusing the lights to the wall, and the wall might even be rigged at that point. So you had to have systems in place to be able to focus the lights and move on.
Yes.
Without having the wall there. So what else did we encounter as issues?
The moment that you spoke about with the bridge spots, we ended up finding a compromise where we used our moving lights, and we created a little special moment for our dancer. And so the choreography had to shift slightly. He wasn't able to move around. He was stationary. I think most other things were pretty simple translations. We used lusters for the squares instead of the moving lights that you used.
Yeah, I remember Al saying, no, can't we just use source 4s? And I said, no, we have to have the flicker. They've got to have a strobe, and we've got the color temperature, make sure it's the right color temperature. So you ended up kind of getting extra lusters in for that.
Yeah, I think those worked pretty well. The footlights are something that's also challenging with us in the way that we tour. At City Center, we're lucky enough that they have a trough that we can put all the lights in, and they're hidden. Our artistic directors are very sensitive about seeing a big black block at the feet of all the dancers on the front of the stage, blocking the lower of the and so being able to find different places on tour on the apron that we drop down or something is also a challenge for us when it comes to incorporating footlights.
I remember that being a big issue for me because Al wanted to find a way to not do it with footlights because your artistic direction don't like them, and I pushed back quite hard on that, and in the end, and the other problem was that the gauze had to be in your first bay, whereas the gauze originally is right at the front of the stage, just behind the orchestra pit.
And Al and I actually designed a custom footlight piece that was maybe 2 inches tall, and it was the entire run of the stage opening, and it had 3 rows of LED tape in it. We went through this whole process. We ended up just using Color Force 2s, which was actually a really great solution because we were able to sync them down so you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
So, but
did you?
It was a process.
Did you use the bespoke LED thing that you designed on tour, or not?
No.
Oh.
No. We were able to.
I knew.
Yeah, we didn't end up using it at all.
Good. Yeah. So there's all of that adjusting that and it's worth saying that I didn't go out to New York to do the recreation. Roya and Al took care of it. I don't always let that happen, but if I trust people and I know that they can understand what it is that I want, and the fact that Al had been out to see it in Munich and we could talk through it bit by bit. So Roya and Al did that, and then Sean Gleason, who had been in Munich with me as my associate, because I was doing 3 pieces in Munich at the time, he flew out to New York for a day or 2 just to work with Al and Roya to check it for me, just to make sure that they could have a 3-way dialogue and decide between them, all knowing me quite well, what they thought I would do. So there's a few questions, and we are going to do some questions very quickly. Roya, is there anything else of the things that we talked about that we should probably share?
Not specifically. I think we kind of did a pretty good overview of it all. We touched on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're probably there. So questions. I see there's already some questions, but start chucking any more in, or as Tim says, turn your video on. So where did we get to? How many lighting techs are there on the load-in for those quick days? And is any and the pre-rigged pipes? Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes. So we have 12 local electricians that supplement our lighting crew, and yes, everything is prepped within an inch of its life. So it's all built on unistrut bars, and then they're all hung on meat racks that just roll off of the truck, and they're color coded. Each electric has its own color, and then within the electric, the unistrut is taped on either end for stage right and stage left, red and green, and then the bars are numbered A, B, C, D, etc. from left to right. So depending on the local crew, because sometimes we have an extremely talented crew, sometimes we have people who are maybe not quite as skilled, or they're students, or so since we have such a limited amount of time, it is prepped extensively. So yes, a lot of it is built that way.
Okay.
And no, the paperwork is not currently in the Dropbox. But
I mean, we talked about it, and we're just, I'm going to work tomorrow on. Roya and I'll have a look and see what we can share in the Dropbox if there's anything that has a bit of a copyright issue or stuff. But we will put a little Ailey, Kairos. We'll put some stuff in there for you because we didn't really know that was what was happening. Every year there's new and improved lights coming out. How do you deal with the new products and incorporating that within your rig? Roya, how do you upgrade how do you keep your rig current?
So the Ailey plot again is kind of unique in that it hasn't changed terribly much since the 1960s. Some of the fixtures have changed, and some things have been added in, but not really a lot. The structure, like if you look at a light plot that was drawn in 1965, most of the systems are the same. Some things changed, like the backlight obviously wasn't in the strip lights. It was little Fresnels, 8-inch Fresnels, and it was diagonal. The amber backlight was diagonal, and then it came to be flat back. So little adjustments like that have been made. But new products are challenging to incorporate because it is a repertory company. And so incorporating something new, like a system of LED source 4s, for example, that will replace, I imagine eventually we'll have to replace our scroller systems because they are just breaking down. But we're going to hold on to them as long as we can. Is complicated because it's not just a piece of color and a scroll. It is remixing every single cue in every single 145 ballets that exist in our repertory. And so we are very careful about how we incorporate new technology into the rig, but we are not opposed to it.
I mean, it's worth saying for the first ballet we did with you, Chroma, the overhead works within your repertory rig, but it has so many additional, well, originally they were the LDDE fluorescent fixtures. And when we took it to Ailey, Al came over to London with LED fixtures, and we all worked together, the people at the Royal Ballet and myself and Al from Alvin Ailey, to change the whole thing over to LED. And that was challenging to kind of remix, but actually what we found was, because we were working with a larger proportion of black dancers, and we had to change color costumes, and therefore we changed the look. So the Alvin Ailey version of Chroma is of its own thing, and it's a
little richer, perhaps.
Quite often Wayne and I say it's our favorite version of Chroma, but because we changed it to LED, and you did, Alvin Ailey company did invest in all that equipment and bought it for Chroma. So. We
did. There are moments where our artistic director will come to us and say, I want this ballet, I want to do it, let me know what it's going to take to make it happen. And when, you know, they say things like that, we try and do as much as we can to make it happen. Yeah.
So Graham is asking, how have you found that the development of LED fixtures has helped Rep Ballet and made it easier for LDs to work with the Rep rig?
I think that in some cases, well, like I said, there are not a lot of LED fixtures in our rig at all. The color changing fixtures are our moving lights and our scrollers. We have very, very recently added a tower per side all the way upstage with color force 2s that kind of scrape across the white scrim. And this is an attempt at offering a ground row should a designer need a ground row. And that is LED, and that is something that we have been able to use that technology to accomplish. But there's not a lot of LED in our rig. And again, if you have a lot of old ballets, it's really hard because the quality of light is extremely different. You can't just, it's not just the practicality of remixing all of the instruments, all the color palettes, but the quality of light is incredibly different. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Ailey company, our classic main ballet is called Revelations, and it's all very warm and amber and slow dimming curves, and it's just nearly impossible to achieve with LED.
I mean, I think that LED fixtures for the lighting designers going into repertory companies has improved our job, and it's gives us so much more flexibility, as have moving lights in repertory dance rigs. It's just made things much more exciting and possible. But I think it's made the team at the company's job harder, because the more flexibility we have, the more we do, the more cues we make, the more moves we make with the moving light. and they have to check it all and keep it all up to date. And you know, if you've got one LED fixture that's not behaving and you swap it out for another one, then you've got to balance the colors in each fixture. So I think as a lighting designer, it's improved my life immensely, but I can see that.
Not as a lighting director, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's tricky.
I think we actually skipped a question, Lucy.
Which one?
Yeah. Tamika.
Oh, yeah.
Apologies if I said that wrong.
No, that's right.
Go ahead.
Made additions to your basic rig influenced by additional features. Yeah. So have you ever kept stuff that lighting designers have added?
Well, so that ground row is kind of an example of something that we kept a year ago, maybe now a year ago. Mark Stanley designed a ballet called Ounce of Faith, choreographed by Darrell Moultrie. And he's the resident lighting designer at City Ballet, New York City Ballet. And he is so used to having this big, beautiful, plastic, soft, diffuse background. And so he really wanted a ground row. And so we kind of came up with the solution for him, and it kind of stuck around. So there are moments and instances when that happens, but again, it hasn't changed a ton in its history.
Oh, I just want to say sorry to everybody that you're seeing me gurning, because my video is just like constantly freezing while I'm pulling a terrible face. So sorry about that. When you do end up replacing a conventional system with a color changing option, what are the steps you have to go through to update your repertory? How long does that take, and how does that change the tracking paperwork you use?
This is a huge conversation that's happening right now in our industry, and there are a few ways to go about it, I think, but we would have to dedicate time. There would have to be time that we spend either in the shop or in a theater, just sitting there, spending hours matching the colors and creating color palettes that match our scrollers. And again, it's not ideal because a scroller with a blue gel in front of it at full is not the same color as it is at 20% or 30%. And so we have to make the decisions about how deep we go into that, because there's hardly time to create a ballet. So it's going to be challenging to find the time to make adjustments like that to incorporate color changing fixtures. So that takes a very long time. That would change the tracking paperwork in the way that when I showed you briefly at the end of that Q tracking document, I had a page of the color palettes and beam palettes that lists every parameter and the level that it's at in that color palette. That would become much more extensive of a process.
Yeah. You can also pop up on screen. I know Tim was you can come and say hi. So how do you and Al divide up the workload in the room during the creation of a new piece with a guest LD?
Thank you, Ethan. So Al and I are there to support the guest LD. We have everything in the rig just in our mind. It's second nature. The numbers come to us like that. So it kind of varies depending on the lighting designer that's there. Some people are very structured. They want to use their magic sheet. They want to call channel numbers. They want to do everything themselves. And some designers call concepts. They say, can I have the stage right pipe ends? And then I will translate that to our programmer. Me or Al, we work interchangeably in a lot of those ways when we're in the theater. Sometimes he is involved in that part of it. Sometimes he's involved in, discussing with our head electrician what is coming next, and looking at more bigger picture things while I'm at the tech table with the designer. So it varies from time to time, but that's generally what we do.
Yeah. Katie, I can only imagine how tricky a classic Balanchine ballet would convert to LED. Really, absolutely. Even with high CRI.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want that. There's no way. Ross, in the instance where you didn't have a follow spot and had to change to a mover, did the dancer respond well to the choreography challenge, and how did that compromise work out? Well, I would say that I had to tell Wayne McGregor that there was no way we could have a follow spot, and that we would have to, but I'd come up with a brilliant solution working with the Alvin Ailey team, that we would like have a follow spot, and he could place this dancer, or his restager could place the dancer wherever they want on the stage, because we could move our moving light, but they had to stay static for the choreography. And so the restager who was doing the choreography restaging worked with the dancer to just isolate the moment. Yeah. Great, it looked great, and you wouldn't know, obviously, as an audience member, that previously he was moving about the stage a little bit, and now he's static. You wouldn't know that. So it, you know, sometimes even compromises like that, and whenever I'm restaging, relighting something, you know, sometimes I like my second version better. You know, I like having had to make a compromise, I then like the compromise better.
Happy accidents.
Yeah. And so I think that a lot of times that there's always different versions. They become different versions of the same ballet. Oh, have we come to the end of our questions? Has anybody else got questions? Hey, hello, Jason.
How you doing?
Tell us your question.
So kind of a double question.
Oh, I can't hear you. Is that something I'm doing?
Maybe I can hear him.
You can hear him, right? You answer the question, Roya.
It's about the paperwork. Obviously, you have a lot of paperwork there. How do you, when and how do you have the time to create all that, particularly like all the drawings of the focusing instead of just a picture of the focus? But also, do you have a system in place of being able to check, you know, if you change something on this page, say that light changes, obviously with the rep rig it probably won't, but if something changes during tech in terms of the show specials, to make sure you've made that change in every single document that light is referenced?
Yes. Simply put, I don't have the time. And so I'm constantly doing it throughout the season, throughout the tour, because it all happens so quickly. It's something that I'm doing in any moment of downtime. I will try and update this paper. I've created, because there were so many different pieces of information in so many different places, I've created a FileMaker database for myself so that it was all in one place. And that helps me make sure that all of the things are aligned and different pieces of paperwork don't have different information on them. But when we're at the tech table, I'm constantly updating the paperwork. We share things in Dropbox, you know, and so it can automatically repopulate backstage to our electricians, and they can see the changes live as they're happening. And so it is a lot of paperwork to manage.
How many new shows are you doing this season? Because obviously once it's done and you've updated it throughout the season, obviously it's in the rep, and then unless it changes, how many new ones are you doing?
Yes. At our city center season, it is usually around 8 new works. Some of them 2 or 3 are brand new premieres, and then the rest are usually coming in from other companies or from our old repertory.
Cool.
And then the rest of it is you know, already in existence and doesn't generally change a lot.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear you. I don't know why. Nina.
Oh, no.
Question about chroma and maybe something that I misunderstood about it. You said that Ailey had bought that ballet. Is that something that's common in the dance repertory world? Like, what does that mean to have? What is that process like?
Lucy, can you hear Nina or no?
No, I can't hear Nina either. So you might I can hear you, Roya. So
okay, so that's okay. Okay, so the question was about, you mentioned that we had purchased some things for chroma, and the question was if that's common in the dance industry. What Lucy had mentioned was that at Ailey, we normally rent everything. So 4Wall is the shop that we use, and most of our package is a rental. But chroma was so specific with very specific fixture types this was at the beginning of the Color Force line from Chroma Key when the first versions of all of this came out. And so a lot of it had to be custom made with certain types of LEDs in the fixture. And so it made more sense for us to purchase it instead of renting it. And so it was something special that we did for that piece because it was very specific. I don't know, Lucy, if you want to speak to how other companies generally function.
Sorry, ask me the question again, Roya.
Just discussing purchasing things for a ballet and things to create that specific piece.
It really depends on how much pushing you can do, how quickly I can develop a relationship with the lighting person, the head of lighting, or the person I'm dealing with in the company. I've noticed over the years I've managed to get more because as you become a bit more respected, or as you become more confident, you learn to push, or they'll kind of go the extra mile. I have on occasions had to say I'll use Wayne as an example because I do most of my dance work with Wayne. I have to go back to Wayne and say, you know, that idea I had, well, they're saying I can't do it. They're saying I can't have those lights. And then we'll discuss it. We'll decide if it's absolutely essential for the work. If there's something else I can cut, so I'll discuss it with Wayne to make sure that he knows I'm cutting something else. And then ultimately, if it's something that's super essential, he'll go to the management and say, this is a deal breaker. And it takes a long time and it takes a lot of effort. And there's points where I say to Wayne, I'm not going to push anymore for this because I'm feeling that my relationship with them is breaking down and I've got to go and light this ballet for a week and a half or whatever. And we won't get anywhere if they're not on my side. So you just have to read the situation. But, you know, with existing ballets that have been bought, I will say to them, all right, if you don't want to buy that equipment or you don't want to rent that equipment, you can't have the ballet. And I'll say, I'll tell Wayne you can't do the ballet. And then they go, oh, well, we'll try and find a way. It's kind of a horrible situation to be in, but you have to push.
Yes, that did.
Did that answer your question, Nina?
I don't know why I can't hear you. Jason's trying to get me to look at mutes and things, but I'm sorry. Noah's got a question about.
Yes. What is the deal with Group 111? Group 111 is a system. It's a back fan system, a 9-light system of pools, and it crosses kind of like this. And it is usable for certain ballets. It changes out color and template depending on the piece. But because we have 4 ballets or 5 evening, will be in their own individual acts. So we have 3 acts, 2 intermissions or intervals. But sometimes there will be 2 ballets in 1 act. So if they're shorter pieces, then we'll do 1 and have a 2-minute pause to do the color change, and then we'll do the second one. So both of those pieces can't use that system because it's overhead. And so we kind of have to control where it can be used and what can't, because we don't have time in that pause to fly the pipe in or get a ladder or a genie lift out and change the color and templates.
Very good.
I have a question.
Cool. Here comes Tim.
Hey, Roya.
Any more questions, anybody? We've got 2 minutes.
I have a question for Roya. So what's next, Roya? What's next for you? Assuming the theatre world all gets switched back on next year and it goes back to normal, what's keep doing stuff for Alvin, Ailey, or what's the dream?
Yes, I keep doing what I'm doing, I suppose. I'm starting to work a little bit more with the Washington Ballet, which has been a fun experience, and hopefully Ailey continues to keep thriving. I know everything in our industry is super unknown, but yeah, I'm keeping on.
Sticking with the dance world. Can you hear us now, Lucy?
Yes.
Now, yeah.
Good. Yes, I'm completely open to different things, but the dance world is kind of where my heart is at. And I'm happy to do other things. I love musicals. It's originally where I started. But you know, I've somehow ended up in this world, and I'm not mad about it.
Cool. Is that everything then, guys? Thank you so much for having us.
No, and thank you. This has been brilliant. I don't know anything about dance, so I learned a lot tonight. So it's
Yeah,
fantastic having you guys here.
it's kind of a different thing, I think. It's a really different process for associate. So
yeah.
And thanks everybody for coming in your evening. I know you've all been really busy.
Yeah, it's been a long day. Thanks for hanging
thanks,
in.
Guys. Get some rest tonight. Keep working on your projects if you want to. I'll be on the Slack channel all night if anyone wants help or wants to reach out. Please do that. But also have a break and be fresh for tomorrow because there's more fun to be had. Thanks, guys. This session will stay open if anyone wants to chat and talk to each other, or turn your cameras on, get to know each other, have a drink, or anything like that. You're more than welcome to. But if not, I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, Roya, and thank you, Lucy.
Roya, did you want to? I mean, I don't know. I probably need to go and check my children have eaten their tea, but
I can stay for a few minutes if anyone has any other questions. But if not, that's cool too.
They're all signing off as well.
They're all done. I think they've had a long day.
Roya, thanks so much. Oh, here's Jason. Jason, can I hear you now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
It's sort of a question, more of a conversation for both of you, but and I don't know if I asked you this when I worked with you, Lucy, but how did you, Roy, have you always done like dance lighting and been involved in dance? And Lucy, did you do dance first into theatre and opera, or have you sort of gone the other way? And if so, how would you get into dance if it's something you wanted to do?
Roya, do you want to first?
Sure. I think that I was lucky. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. I think I was lucky in my schooling training that I was able to do all of the different things. We had musicals, we had opera, we had dance. And so I definitely felt attached to dance in that way. And so when I was choosing an internship to do, I chose the Ailey company, and that kind of catapulted that entrance into the dance world. But like I said, I've also done a lot of other things through Arc3 Design, installations, events, things like that. And so it's been nice to have the variety of things and to be able to bring the sensibilities that we use in the theater and dance to those other sort of creative
for me,
solutions.
Dance brought me to lighting design. So I studied dance and was choreographing at university, and all my ideas started with a visual idea. And the best way, with no budgets and things, to create a visual idea was by using the lights, because there were lights in the dance studio. So I kind of started doing lighting for my own choreographies, and then everybody said, oh, can you do lights for our choreographies? And then a lighting designer used to come in and light the third year. I helped them and learned from them. And by the time I left university, they'd kind of created a whole new job for me, because I'd become the unofficial lighting technician for the whole dance department. And so they actually created a paid job when I left for me, so that they didn't lose that ability to light all their shows and stuff. So yeah, dance brought me to light, and I did a year specialism then in lighting design at Central School of Speech and Drama, and then my first job was at a dance venue. And that was kind of just by chance that I got offered. I went in and did some work for nothing, and then they offered me a casual position, and then I became chief and I was designing. But it's interesting because my lighting designs it has been said that they're very choreographic, and now I'm coming back round to making light installations that are about choreographic light. But and I was very kind of labeled at the beginning as a dance lighting designer, and I did tiny bits of opera, but I didn't do any theatre. And then gradually, you know, a boyfriend of one of the dancers he was a director, he saw my dance work, and, you know, I did a theatre piece with him, and then gradually theatre came on and more opera, and it was a gradual process, and it took me a long time to, I mean, I think everybody would say, and I'm probably not shy of it now, would say I'm a lighting specialist, but 10 years ago it used to annoy me because I didn't want to be labelled, because I wanted to do everything and have the experience. I like a variety of things, and dance is challenging often because it's very abstract and you have to work very hard at creating the space itself. So sometimes it's nice to have a script and be taught, not be taught, but a script kind of tells you what to do. It kind of points you more solidly in a direction. So and in terms of getting work or breaking into a new area, or obviously doing work and getting people to see it is really important, and offering yourself up to shadow. And I hate to say it, and it's just an appalling way that our industry works, that there has to be these, you know, can I come and observe for free kind of shit. It's appalling. And I think it's going to change, and there will be new ways, but we're not there yet. Is that all right, Jason?
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you. I'm going to have to go and do bed.
Hi. How do you say your name? Is it Malia?
Malia, yeah.
Malia, good. I'm glad I got that right. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How about yourselves?
Yeah, we're good. We're glad that's done now. It makes you a bit nervous having to do things like that.
Yeah.
So I had a couple questions, if that's okay. And I was curious how you chose lighting direction over lighting design. And then if in college, were you more of a technician or more of a designer?
In college, I was definitely more of a designer. Like I said, there were 2 different tracks at school, and I chose the design track. I don't know that I chose lighting direction. I think it kind of just happened that way. I think I was very drawn to the Ailey company specifically. And so that is where I initially went. But through that process, I found that I really enjoy the role of a lighting director. I think that it's unique in the industry, and it allows me to, it still allows me to be creative, because you need to find ways, you need to really see and know the designs and internalize them and understand what parts of them are important, because sometimes when we tour, especially internationally, the fixture types are different, and the ways that we create the ideas are different. And so being able to hold on to what makes a design is part of the job, but it also satisfies another organizational part of my brain. And so I think that it was...
I don't have that bit in my brain.
I think that it kind of worked out well for me in that way, that I found this role that is not very common in a lot of places in our industry.
Yeah. And then I was curious what the best piece of advice, like, either of you have ever gotten about lighting design, like something that stuck with you.
Ooh.
God. I'm sure I've had many, many, many really good pieces of advice. And I was listening to this on Monday, and the session with Rob Casey, and some of the things he said, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to do that now. One of the things I say that I love about my job is that I'm learning still. Like every day I'm learning. And I don't think there's many careers where 28 years in you're still, but I'm learning so much every day from the people that I work with, the themes of the work that I get asked to do. You go and research them. I don't get enough learning from other lighting designers, and so listening to some of these sessions you've been having has been really interesting, because we don't work together. You don't, so But yeah, piece of advice, Roya, what's yours?
I don't know. I think I would say maybe to always stay open. You know, I think especially young designers will they tend to latch onto an idea in their creative process, and then it's hard for them to let go of that idea. And if you stay open, then maybe something that seems like an obstacle could actually lead to something really brilliant.
I mean, I think my favorite piece of advice that I believe in that I would give is anger just doesn't get you anywhere.
That's very true.
Because the minute you get angry with somebody or something or a light, you know, I can quite often get annoyed with certain lights. You're not staying open, which is what Roya just said, to kind of the chance that that's giving you, or the chance that that person who's being rather annoying and has been really annoying for 3 days, the chance that they're giving you to learn to they're giving you a chance to kind of block them out and concentrate on what you need to be doing, or and getting angry just completely blocks my creativity. So I try really hard to like take a deep breath or put it to a different part of my brain, and maybe, yeah, when I get home and go to bed, I'm like ranting about it and can't get to sleep because I'm cross. But yeah, I think just politeness, treating people with respect, not getting angry, you know, is really important. Thank you. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, of course it was. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. If there's anyone else, otherwise we'll sign off and have
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Roya.
Thank you, Lucy.
Are you around tomorrow? Shall I give you a quick call just to debrief?
Yes, I am.
Oh, look,
We have a question.
Sign a new piece. What is your method for doing the blocking sheet? I don't do blocking sheets. I write a lot of notes, and I kind of I suppose I might do an arrow to say diagonal, and yeah, I don't do blocking sheets. Do you do blocking sheets, Roya?
Yeah, in a way. Just kind of important. I kind of do a combination of things. It's funny because Al is he has this sheet that he's created, and it's a bunch of little squares, and I think I do something in between the two of you. I'll do a lot of writing of notes, and then I'll draw a little diagram if there's something specific that I want to remember structurally.
Yeah, I do some diagrams, and if there's like a really important like setup that I know I need specials for, then I'll do it for each dancer just quickly. But I know lots of designers do have blocking sheets for dance especially, but I don't. I remember it in my head. I just need to read a note and it says Ed moves stage right, kicks and spins and inverts, and I can see it in my mind what that is. So
Lucy and her photographic memory don't need them.
It's not that. I think I just I can read choreography.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you, Stephen, for your question. And thanks, everybody. And good luck with the next couple of days. And I think I do drop in on Friday to say hi and goodbye and thanks and stuff. So
wonderful.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.